Good evening. I am not Kevin Matthews. How many of you, I'm just not. I'm Mike Zach. I'm in charge of events, parish missions and stuff here at the parish. I read Kevin's book like 5 years ago. Michelle Tack had mentioned to me it was in the kiosk, so I got it, took it home, started reading about two-thirds of the way home, and two-thirds of the way through the book at home, tears are streaming down my eyes and going, we got to get this guy. And then COVID hit. And so we're really blessed to be able to have him here at the parish. So Kevin, I mentioned it, Kevin wrote a bestseller called Broken Mary, and it's been read throughout the world. It was published by Matthew Kelly's company, Dynamic Catholic, and it's also on Amazon. You can get it as a book, you can get it as a Kindle. When I met Kevin yesterday, he mentioned that there's an audio version as well. So that would be a cool thing to have, the audio version. His rosary apps have been downloaded over 1 million times throughout the world. He's also one of the most recognized radio people in the broadcast industry. 2 weeks ago on Friday night on WGN, he was actually there with a reunion with a bunch of the people from the 80s and 90s. Kevin became a household name. In the 80s and 90s, I was a real estate appraiser, so I was on the road all the time. And Brandmeier, Kevin, and Dahl and Meyer, they're the ones that kept me company. If it hadn't been for them, I wouldn't have been able to survive. So Kevin and Jim Shorts and all his characters, they made my life a lot easier. He's been an all-time top 20 radio entertainers, and he's about to enter the Radio Broadcast Hall of Fame as well. In the fall of 2008, his world was rocked. When he was on the air, he became paralyzed, and through that, he realized that God was calling him. And he's here tonight to share this incredible journey. But before we welcome Kevin, he wants us to first see this very short video that'll tell a story about what's going to take place. Before we show the video, one more thing. If you're not having fun tonight, you don't belong in here. Seriously, you got to have fun, you got to laugh, you got to cry, you got to do all the crazy things that what we're supposed to do. I mean, we're called as Catholics to be filled with joy, so let's have a joyous evening, and let's make sure we have a lot of laughter, and we'll go from there. So, video time.
I found this statue of the Virgin Mary lying next to a dumpster. It was too heavy to throw into the dumpster. I don't know who would do such a thing, but this statue of Our Lady caught my eye. I walked over and looked, and she's broken in half at the waist. Her hands are missing. She looked so cold and abandoned, her eyes just looking up at me. And that's when I heard a voice I'll never forget. This stern voice said, "Will you deny me? Will you deny my mother?" I ended up taking the statue. I kept her because she was broken, and so was I. I took her home and I called a priest, and he came and blessed her, and that's when the miracles began. First, I had this urge to recite the rosary. I didn't even have a rosary or know what a rosary really was. But Mary herself, she taught me her rosary. And when you recite and hold her rosary, you are holding the hand of Mary. And when you hold the hand of Mary, you're holding the power of God. And that power can heal everyone who's broken. So many people have touched the statue of Broken Mary. Some are sick, many have addictions. So many are afraid or dying of loneliness. Many have contemplated suicide, and some are serving life in prison. We all are broken. It's humbling to go to Mary and say, "Mary, the mother of Jesus, please, please, Mary, be my mother today." This world is moving so fast. Maybe it's time to stop and close your eyes and finally be with God.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Kevin Matthews.
Oh, please. Come on, please. Keep it up. Keep it up. Thanks. Keep it up. Thank you so. Oh, come on. That's great. Thank you. Thank you. No, stand. Keep standing. We are filming for a documentary tonight. That was outstanding. Thank you so much. Well, you've knocked down Pheasant Run. Why did you do that? We had a prom there. We had a golf outing there. I got kicked out there, and you did too, because I know some of you golfed. Oh, yeah. Some of you golfed. You're in church now. There's a thing called confession. How many? It's gone. Pheasant Run is gone. Oh man, oh man, oh man. Here, and it's gotten big out here. And Jenny McCarthy lives out here. What's up with that? She was on my show a lot, and she's married to that Wahlberg. And holy cow, it's unbelievable to be here. It really is. And I want to thank everybody, and especially my host. Let me get everything all ready to go here tonight. I know this phone is going to go off. I know Debbie, and you're going to hear about Debbie. Oh boy, are you going to hear about Debbie. But I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. Forget it. Here, I'm turning my phone off. You want my phone? It's pretty cool. You can call some good folks. But no, it's really great to be here. I want to thank St. Pat's and Monsignor for having me here. And also to Eric and to Becky. What a great family. I've been here since yesterday. And tonight is going to be special because I've actually written down some notes because I want to talk about some stuff that I've never talked about, okay? And I want to have you all understand what's been happening. First of all, like I said, how many people used to listen to me while I was in Chicago on the Loop or ABC, CBS? You can raise your hands if you want. Wow, look at that. No, thank you. Give yourselves a hand. We did that. Now, be honest, how many people have no idea who I am? And see, that is excellent. Really, that is so awesome until now. Because you're going to get to know me because for the next 6.5 hours, no, it's not 6.5, it's 5.5. You're going to get to know me, and I want you all to know exactly what I'm doing now. Because it's been really a really cool adventure. It really has. Chicago at that time, for me, it started here in Chicago, 1986 to 2005, okay? 86, 2005, we all did everything together. Debbie and I come from St. Louis because I'm sending tapes to Steve Dahl. I got to get out of St. Louis. And I got hired at the Loop, AM 1000. It started off on the FM, but then Jimmy DeCastro bought this AM station that got into 32 states and Canada. Yeah, hey there. And to think we had 10 million people listening to us a week, and we did everything together. You and I, we did everything together. We were getting married, we were having kids. Some of us were becoming cops and lawyers and plumbers and doctors. We did everything together. You invited me over to your house to pool parties. Me and Johnny Brandmeier and Steve and Gary, we did everything together. We did concerts together. And here we are now, and we've all grown up, and I want to tell you about my family and whatnot, but that time, it was the perfect storm. It really was. Culturally, think of it. The internet was coming alive, but radio was coming alive. And remember Ron Majors and Carol and Mort Downey? And you had that young kid from Michael Jordan and Mike Ditka and the Bears and Platteville. It was just the perfect storm. It really was. Culturally, Chicago was the place. And people from all over the country would listen to me and Steve and Gary and Brandmeier and little Danny Bonaducci. And dead dad. And I'll tell you about Danny here tonight. But they would fly in, radio stations would fly in their morning, or just air people. They'd park out by O'Hare and get a room and write everything down and take it. But you couldn't copy us. And it was so unique, Steve and Gary and Janet. And I still see Steve and Gary and Janet every once in a while. And Johnny, he's up in Wisconsin. Danny Bonaducci, he's in Seattle. He suffered and had a stroke. And Chet Kopic, we lost Chet. We lost Les Grobstein. We've lost some greats. I am so close because I used to go and hunt over in Sandwich, and there's Steve McMichael, and I look at Steve, and such a great friend, and I want to see him before I want to go. Life is short. It is short. I don't have to tell you that. And so tonight is a celebration. It's a journey of hope. That's what this book is called. And I'm not here to sell books. I'm here to I want you to be in on this journey I'm on, because it was such a great time, radio. Most of all, thank you. I'm nominated for the Radio Hall of Fame. What I care most about that, and I'm not lying because I'm in a church, I'm not at Pheasant Run, or doing a comedy jam. I wanted to always thank you, the audience, because you were the show. We did everything together. Without you, I would not have this success. And so thank you. And it's a pleasure to be out here in St. Charles in this area. Tonight, we've got a lot to do, and we have a very short time, and it's all going to be over. And tonight, I want to introduce you to something that I found at a dumpster. Just think, God led me to a dumpster. Seriously. A dumpster, a filthy dumpster. A dumpster. And then, I want to meet you at the end, but I want you to know that there is no such thing as a coincidence. What I've witnessed and witness, there's no coincidence. You're here for a reason. You've been called. And the star of the show is not me. I say to myself, I'm Mary's roadie. I am. I'm Mary's roadie. She wanted to be in St. Charles. We're going to go to St. Charles. In a week, I'm going to be in New Jersey at the Fatima Shrine, Arizona, down in Savannah, Georgia, Dallas, Texas. We're going where the broken are. And just when I think it slows down, I get a phone call. I'm Mary's roadie. It's her. She's the star of the show. And I want to set some rules up, because I've had people say to me, you're going to hell because you love Mary too much. That's a nice way to start the day. I cannot love Mary more than Christ. I don't think Jesus is upset that I adore his mother. I love her. She's mom. She's your mother. And I'm going to prove that tonight. So Mary's the star. I'm her roadie. And I want you to know some comparisons tonight in the 10 years since I've been to that dumpster and called. Lourdes, you've heard of Lourdes? Bernadette, Subaru in Lourdes, sees Mary 28 times, becomes a nun. Lourdes is very important to this story, and there's no such thing as a coincidence. I got to know more and more about Bernadette because Debbie, my wife, when she became Catholic, she chose the name Bernadette. And that's where I started to learn about Bernadette. And tonight you'll hear why I really started to learn about Bernadette. Bernadette is part of this story. Tonight, besides Bernadette and Lourdes, there is a parallel run to Fatima, Portugal. Are you familiar with Fatima and Mary in Fatima, Portugal? If for those who don't, 105 years ago, Mary appears to 3 shepherd children in Portugal, Fatima, Portugal. Little Jacinta, Francisco, brother and sister, 7 and 8, and their cousin Lucia, who's 10. That plays a very major role in this story. Mary, her gentle, immaculate heart, when I was born, is getting me ready to go to Fatima. No coincidence. None. You're here for a reason. There's no such thing as a coincidence. I will cut to the chase. God is real. God is real. Christ is real. Mary is real. The disciples, real. Not long ago, I was talking and somebody came up to me and said, "When did you become a Jesus freak? I liked you better when you were on the radio and you were like at Alpine Valley. I threw up for you." I threw up for you. Threw up for me? Yeah, I threw up for you. You had Joe Walsh and Sticks, Alpine Valley. Now you're Jesus. Well, I said to the guy, "When did I become a Jesus freak?" The age of 6. It's in the book. It's in the book, Broken Mary. Because I want to bring in tonight, and I've got some notes because there's stuff that I have not talked about. And I want to talk about them tonight. At the age of 6, I grew up in Pontiac, Michigan, which is north of Detroit. People in Detroit are very afraid of people in Pontiac, okay? I say I'm from Pontiac, and they like check their wallet and put, "Really?" Oh, okay, yeah. No, Pontiac was a tough place, 1965. And tonight, I think the producer of the documentary is going to show you something, if you'd like, a teaser about the the documentary, and it talks about Pontiac. But 1965, I'm tiny, and I'm watching Kennedy being shot, Oswald, there's race riots. My neighborhood, I look back, it was called Hillbilly Heaven. Seriously. Neighbors screaming, getting drunk, cops, they're screaming inside my house, outside my house. I'm a little Catholic. I go to St. Vincent's in Pontiac. I don't know what God is, but I'm so tiny, I'd go to bed at night and I would cry myself to sleep, and I don't want this to be the Oprah show, but I was frightened in this house. I was frightened outside this house. And I said so many times to God, this big giant in the air, "Kill me. I want to go to heaven. I'm 6. Take me to heaven." Think of that. God's hearing a kid say, "Kill me, I want to go to heaven." Do you think God wasn't with me at that point and has always been with me? I'm the one that always lets go of his hand. Always. I've let go of his hand so many times, but he's always there to grab it again. And it was such a, it was a powder keg. I was a junkyard dog. I'd set cars on fire. I didn't know how to read. I didn't know how to write. I got expelled in 5th grade for signing things on this girl's Valentine. It was disgusting. Go to the office, there's my dad, there's the Valentine all ripped up. Did you write this? I can't say what's on that Valentine. You've got good imaginations. You've been to my blue shows, think of it. I'm in 5th grade. No, that wasn't me, that was my brother. That was Jim. Man, did I pay for that one. I had to work and repay my dad for like 5 years with this paper route because he worked at GMC and he had to take some time off. Take me home and just beat me with a breadboard. But at that time, my environment was playing a big role. Also at that time, I had 2 grandfathers. I had an Irish grandfather, my mother's dad and mom, they're Irish. He's a cop, gentleman, he'd rock me. And now I look back, they would say the rosary with me. And I loved that man. Big guy, just protected me, and he was such a sweet man. And man, I'll tell you what, he's a cop, and he hated guys that hurt women. My other grandfather on my dad's side was a member of the KKK. No, seriously, he was a grand wizard. And I remember driving with him and his wife and what he was teaching me. Racism is taught. You're not born a racist. You're taught to hate. You are taught to hate. My other grandfather teaches you to love. Christ, they were devoted to Catholic. They had a crucifix on the wall that I still have on my wall today. And that rosary. I didn't know what he's doing, but he'd rock me. It's the rosary, it's the rosary. Those are my 2 Indians. Friends, or my 2 grandfathers. And I want to tell you about some Indians that I run into that play a big part of my life too. So that was my environment growing up. And then my parents had to move to Rochester, Michigan. We had to get out of Pontiac. Otherwise, I was going to be in jail. I was. And in Rochester, I went to middle school. Madonna was in my middle school. Of course, we didn't get married. Duh. But I remember her. My sister hung out with her. And that was a great time. So now I'm out in the country and things start to settle down. If I want clothes, get a job. You want a car, get a job. You want to go to college, get a job. That was my dad. And I did. I started working at a drugstore, Perry Pharmacy on Big Beaver Road. I love saying that. With my brother, who was the store manager from the age of 16 to 18, there I was in the store. You know, it was a good time. It was a good time. And then I went to college because there was this girl that took care of all the cards, and she was so beautiful, Dawn. And she went to Grand Valley, so I thought, I'll go to Grand Valley. I didn't know that's stalking, but it is. And I did. And then after like the first, after like in the winter, she transferred to Ferris, and I'm all there by myself. She dusted me like an end table. So I'm in Grand Valley outside Grand Rapids, and that's where I met Debbie. And Debbie is still alive, and Debbie is still around. We're still married, and we celebrated our 40th anniversary last year. No, give her a round of applause. She is an angel, what I've put her through. She is an angel. And again, her confirmation name, Bernadette. And I have my son, he's a musician, he's all over the world, and my little daughter Teague, who was born on the loop, she's now a mom with a 10-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 2-year-old, and they live 3 miles from us. I mean, I'm totally blessed. You know, I'm doing, to this day, I'm on the road, I'm Mary's roadie, but I'm still doing animation with Jim Shorts, and we pick the Bears game every week. We've got the Bears coming up, and you can watch and see that. And Jim is in this book, by the way. Now, I don't do Jim Shorts. I can do an impression of Jim. Would you like to read? This is Jim. This says Jim Shorts right here. It says, an impression. I'll do the best I can. Jim Shorts here.
Some of you know me from my days on the air in Chicago. I want to say before you even think about reading or buying this trash book, without me, there would not be Kevin Matthews. Without me, there would not be a Steve, Gary, Brandmeier, or Howard Stern. Trust me, I was the show. I was hired to say things Kevin couldn't say because he's a baby and has very little spine, period. If he is talking to you now in a church, run. Thank you. That's Jim. Oh.
I'm very proud of this book. And we're writing the follow-up book. We just did that. So that's my family. I'm in Chicago. I'm still, the family. We're out towards Western Springs. I go to church. I'm a weekend warrior. Really, I made sure the kids got baptized and communion and all that stuff. Went to church on Easter, went to church on Christmas. I knew I was skating through. Who else do you think was skating through? Then I was doing some fundraisers for this church, and somebody started to take some money from the church. So there was my excuse. The kids were old enough now, they've done all their sacraments. I'm a con, okay? I am the biggest con, and I took this opening to bail on the church. Oh, I raised money for you, you're stealing it, I'm out of here. At that time, the loop is going away. Steve and Gary break up, Johnny's in California. I'm over at ABC with Scott McKay, who is here. Scott, if you'd like to stand up. Mo Driver is here. Thank you, Scott. And we get fired from ABC. We have the #1 show and whatnot. And I decide, you know what? I'm out of here. I need a break. ABC fired us. We had the #1 morning show. I'm going to go hang out with some Lakota Indians that I got to meet. Because I bow hunt now. And I hunt. And I went out and I hung with Joseph Chasing Horse, who was Crazy Horse's grandson. He's Mini Kanju Lakota. You don't get deeper than that. He doesn't live on the reservation. We did a sweat lodge or a Nike Hapi ceremony behind Mount Rushmore when I went out there. It's called Little Wing. That's where the buffalo used to mate. And when we were out there I was just out there hanging with Joe in Lakota. All these men with sunglasses and dark suits taking our picture. He goes, hey, those are FBI agents. They're starting to file on you now, brother. Seriously. And also I met an Iroquois elder named Santa, S-A-N-A, crossing feet Claus. Santa Claus. He was a sweet man too. They were friends. He was a steel worker up by Niagara Falls, and I would bring him over to our house, and I'd have to go get him at O'Hare. And Santa would always get lost, and I would have to have him paged. And I'd go up to O'Hare, could you please page Santa Claus? I mean, I'm hanging out with Santa and Joe and Hopi and Danae. Scott can tell you, the radio stations hated that I was hanging out with these Indians. But I'll tell you what, those brothers and grandfathers, they became grandfathers to me. They taught me how to pray. So many people would call them heathens. No, they prayed to the same God we do. But boy, they taught me how to pray. Pray in silence. Kevin, come out to the Lakotas and spend 1 day out here in the Black Hills. Come next year, spend 2, 3, 4 days. No food, no water. Pray to the Creator. Pray. Make sacrifices. Santa, the most beautiful human being, he was an angel. I know God sent me Santa because he was an angel. He had nothing. He lived up in Niagara Falls. I said, Santa, how can you be so happy? You have nothing. He said, brother, when I wake up in the morning, I try to outgive God. Think of that. Try that tonight, tomorrow. When you wake up, try to outgive God. That man was so sweet to me. I love these gloves he had. Beaded, deer hide. I said, Santa, those are beautiful gloves. He goes, here, brother, take them. Taught me to own something, you give it away. He gave those gloves to me. He died. He was a steel worker, diabetic, got hurt. And Santa was one of the, and I talk about him in the book. And I know he was sick, and he goes, you know, brother, I'm going to cross over. There's no such thing as death. Brother, I'm just taking another step. He said, Kevin, when the moon is full, I'll sit on the moon and let's talk. So every time there's a full moon, I say, Santa, crossing feet clause. There's so many times I talk to him. Joe Chasing Horse, he went on to die, but he wanted to know something so beautiful. And he taught me so much. He said, Kevin, when we are born, we cry the breath of life. We cry the breath of life. And the older we get, each breath becomes a prayer because it's coming closer to the end of our prayer, our breathing. Think of that. And it's true. It's true. Now I want to go into something that's important to me because like Lourdes and Bernadette and Fatima, my journey begins with God. Bernadette, Providence. She's out collecting wood with her sister and a friend. Providence. They cross the river. She can't because she's got lung and she's going to get sick. But she's there all by herself. God puts her there. That's called providence. Mary appears to her. But it's God who starts that miracle of Lourdes. Just like in Fatima, the angel of peace comes to the 3 shepherd children and gives them prayers from God to learn. Next, in 1917, after God comes Jesus. Jesus gives them the Eucharist. Then comes Mary. So my journey starts with God, then with Jesus, then with Mary, and I want to show you this tonight. I don't know how. Jesus talks to me. I can't explain it because it's not of this world. I don't know how Mary or God talks, but I do know that when it happens, I always keep my phone. I have to write down what is said in my notes or I'll forget them. And then I go back and I try to remember, what did she say? And I'm trying to repeat it. I can't. And I'll give you a phrase tonight that was given to me by her in Fatima. So tonight, I just want you to know, I do not know how I can't explain it to human terminology because it's spiritual. It's spiritual. God talks to you. It's not just me. He's talking to you too. But I want you to know that this miracles, begins with God. Because what was happening to me in radio is, I'm hanging out with Indians, but they're all dying, and then sooner or later, I get fired from Chicago. It's 2005 now, so I'm going to go back to Michigan where I got my first radio job. I'll do mornings. I'll be a program director. Debbie and I will sell our house quickly. That didn't happen because of the housing crash. So I'm commuting now for 3 years back and forth from Chicago to Michigan. My brokenness really begins now. I'm back and forth. I'm on the air. It's 2008. I'm at the radio station, my first radio station ever, with my newsman. It's a Tuesday. It's 7:16. Suddenly, I can't move. I can't move my hand. I can't move my arm. I can't move my leg. I think I'm having a stroke live on the air. Oh, that'll be cool. Roll tape. This will be a great air check. But I go to break and I say, Ed, I can't move. I eventually go to the hospital. That was Tuesday. I go to the hospital in Chicago on Friday. That's how much I cared about me. Friday, I go to Rush. They look, get an MRI, and I'm with the neurologist, with my wife in her office, and she says, you have a large growth in your brain the size of a walnut, and we think it's cancer. And where it's located, we can't operate. You will die if this is cancer, and in a week we want to do a brain biopsy. Wow, that's a lot. But at least I hit my wife and I said, at least I have a brain. You said I didn't have a brain. And Debbie, you said my brain wasn't in my head. It's where you always says it's in my head. And then I'm thinking of the Three Stooges. They're going to drill into my head and woo, 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 woo. But I go to Rush in a week and I'm like, I'm going to die. What am I going to do with Debbie? And I'm going to die. I'm vulnerable now. Wow, was this it? And I'm certainly not ready spiritually to die. Oh, if I were to die then. I found a picture of me in the hospital bed during that time, getting ready for the biopsy. It's 2008, and I said to myself, looking at this picture, and it's in the next book, had I died, I guarantee you, I will be in hell. I would be in hell. No question about it. No question about it. But it's 2008, they're just about ready, and the neurologist comes in and says, it's not brain cancer, you have a very rare form of MS. And Debbie and I are jumping up and down. Cool, MS, yeah, that's good, right? MS, that's good, right? Oh, there's no cure? Okay, but that's good, right? No, we got to shrink that. So this medication goes, and I'm doing the morning show, and I'm commuting back and forth, and the brokenness really, really starts now. And it's now St. Patty's Day on 2009, and the Irish downtown Chicago, I normally take the Stevenson, now I got to go on the Eisenhower. And I hate the Eisenhower because I am such a woman when it comes to driving, or a grandmother, if you will. I mean, I'm like awful. And the Eisenhower is really fast. So I get on the Eisenhower, I got to go see my attorney out in Clarendon Hills, and as soon as I get on the Eisenhower, I hear this voice. And I've always heard voices. My mom, you can read about it, always said, you always used to talk to people. I hear voices. But I heard the voice that said, go to the cemetery. Go to the cemetery. And I know what cemetery the voice was saying. It's Our Lady of Queen of Heaven off Wolf Road. They had apparitions. The Chicago Tribune did a big story. And Debbie and I took the kids out there when they were little, and you could feel the presence. I said to Deb, yeah, this feels good, right? You know, and kids are taking pictures. Yeah, I'm religious. This feels good. But they do. There's apparitions of Mary and Christ at that cemetery. So I'm on the Eisenhower. As soon as I get close to Wolf Road, I hear the voice again. Go to the cemetery. So I do. I get off Wolf Road. I go into this cemetery that's huge. And for some reason, I go right to the place I'm supposed to be. It's this cross where all the apparitions have occurred. And I'm all by myself in my truck. You know, I'm going through this MS treatment. And the only thing that we had in the house of any religious value was this book. It is a Our Lady of Fatima, Little Mary. This is all we had. And I took this during treatment, and I didn't want to die and go to hell. Give me something. I'll take this of Mary. And my wife and her mother-in-law were in Europe, and they visited Fatima on Mother's Day. She bought this, and I had this. No coincidence. She bought this in 2000. It's now 2009. It's in my truck. I take it down, and I'm going to walk to that cross. There's a guy in a van. I don't know what he's doing in the van. And I go to myself, am I going to get out? Is he going to recognize me? Am I going to be embarrassed? But I walked up to that cross with this booklet, Mary, and the cross is big, Jesus's, his feet are up here, and I put my hand up, and it was a beautiful day, not a cloud in the sky, and I said, God, I am so afraid. Help me. I was so afraid. Help me, God. Then suddenly water started coming down on my hand and wrapping around my arm, and I couldn't do this. I could move my hand, and I put some on my head. I put some on my leg. Wow, wipe the MS away. Whatever. It's all this water is on my hand. I couldn't do this. And I immediately left, went home, told Debbie, I can move my hand. I can move my hand. Look what God did. What did I do the next day? Forgot all about it. Thanks, God. Fixing my hand. See you later. See ya. See ya. See ya. See ya. See ya. It begins with God. He's never going to let go. He calls you until you answer. God is real. He will never quit calling you. That's where God comes in. So now, where does Jesus come in? 2011, I go downstairs, meet my new general manager after I signed a new contract at LAV. Debbie and I just moved into our new house over in Grand Rapids, finally sold it. Goes, you're fired. Well, what do you mean fired? I just signed a 5-year deal. Sue us. You're fired. We'll give you 2 weeks severance pay. I felt like Ray Liotta in Goodfellas. Are you kidding me? 2 weeks, 40 years of broadcasting, 2 weeks pay? You're fired. Get out of here. How am I going to feed Debbie, myself? What are we going to do with the bills? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? That Saturday, the next day, I'm driving and I hear a different voice that says, go get your wife some flowers. Debbie has been through everything. And I look up and there's a flower shop. Coincidence? I drive in. It's November. It just snowed. 2011, I'm walking out of my car and I look out of my car. I'm going towards the door and I look and I see a dumpster. And I look over and there is, she's like 10 yards from me because I bow hunt. I go, that's a statue of Mary. And I walk over to it. She's on her back. She's looking up at me. She's broken in half, 2 pieces. Her hands are missing. She's covered in weeds. She's sunk into the ground. She's got garbage on her, a McDonald's wrappers hitting her in the face. And I heard this next voice say, will you deny me? Will you deny my mother? And it was stern. Will you deny me? Will you deny my mother? I'm not leaving her here. I went in, door rings, I'm the only one there. Woman says, can I help you? And I said, I want to buy that. I want to take that statue of the Virgin Mary. I want to buy it and take it home. Oh, no, you can't. It's a family heirloom. The family heirloom. Then I heard that voice again, will you deny me? Will you deny my mother? I'm not leaving her here. I'm thinking to myself, I'll steal her. I know guys from Melrose. I'll steal her and then I'll come back and burn this place. I'm thinking, I'll steal her. Will you deny me? Will you deny my mother? And that's when I prayed. I literally said, closed my eyes quickly and just said, God, help me. Then the next thing that came out of my mouth, I have no idea where it came from. I said, I'll help nuns that live out around here if I can take her home. She looks at me and she goes, I know that voice. You're Kevin Matthews. You got fired yesterday. I go, yeah, I got fired. What happened? Oh, I got fired. Can I take her? I'll give to the nuns that live out around here. I have no idea what I'm talking about. She goes, sure, in your name. Yeah. And I didn't even buy Debbie flowers. I went outside. I hate to talk about women's weight, but she's heavy. And I take the first half, and it took me about like 20 minutes to get her in the car. Then the second half, I make a little bed for her, and I turn off the radio because I hate radio, and I'm never listening to that again. I turn up the heat, and I remember then I said, Mary, I'll take care of you. Drove home, showed Debbie, made a little bed in the garage. Literally, I was thinking about that today. She had a little bed, and she had little blankets, and she's in the garage, and I'd see her in the morning and stuff like that. And I called up Father Mark. Father Mark is somebody I like, and I started going to church in Grand Rapids because I like Father Mark. We did a lot of culinary and cooking together, and he's a good guy. I called him up. I said, I found this statue of the Virgin Mary at a dumpster. Where can I get her fixed? And he's told me about a mortuary place in the spring. And I'm going, okay. So now at this time, I'm fired from radio. Steve Dahl calls me up and says, why don't you join my podcast network? And I want to thank Steve Dahl because it was a week, I'm not even a week unemployed, and Steve hires me. And I did 6 years with Steve. So thank you, Steve Dahl and Janet. And we had a great time doing a podcast. At least I'm staying active, but I still have MS, and I am far, far away from God. I got a concrete statue of Mary in my garage. But that spring, I took it to this place. Guy looks and says, yeah, we can fix her. I can put new hands on her, we'll paint her, she won't even look broken. That's when I lost it. I literally started crying in front of this guy going, no, I don't want you to fix her. She's broken like me. I want to keep her broken. Just put her in half, just put the halves together. Leave her broken. I want to call her Broken Mary. That's where that came from. I want to call her Broken Mary. The guy wishes he could call 911 and just, yeah, right, get out of here. So I get her fixed, take her home, Father Mark blesses her, and that's when the matrix hits. I had her blessed. She's in my kitchen now, in the dining room part. And every morning I'm doing podcasting, I got a mullet, nice looking mullet, still smoking. Get up in the morning, hey Mary, how you doing, Mary? Let's have some coffee. How you doing? That's what it was like for about a year. Concrete statue of Mary. Hey, Mary. Hey, Mary. Then it's October 13th, 2013. Things are always happening on apparition dates of Fatima. Father Mark, he said to me, hey, don't you owe some nuns money? I go, yeah, I do. He goes, I think I know the Franciscans, let's go out there. So I did, I went out there with Father Mark, brought Broken Mary, and they're so tiny, man. If you're over 4 foot, you can't be a Franciscan. They're tiny, and they all, I felt like Richard Dreyfuss in Close Encounters are all over me. And, they're like, and I get up and I found her at a dumpster, and this is her, and, I call her Broken Mary. We're all broken, but we're loved by God. That's what I said. That was my big Moses moment. We're all broken, but we're loved by God. And they clap, and that's beautiful. So we leave. Father Mark's driving home, and he goes, that's pretty powerful. We're all broken, but we're loved by God. That's a good homily. He calls me up the next day. He goes, Kevin, I'm going to start the homily. I want you. Would you want to come in and finish the homily? We're all broken, loved by God. Bring Broken Mary. You can do 7:30, 10:30, 11:30. I'm thinking, I used to do stand-up, Seinfeld, Tim Allen, blues shows, Pheasant Run. Yeah. I went there at 7:30, and I'm doing We're All Broken, and I'm flop sweat. I'm not getting laughs because it's not a comedy club. I'm getting towards the end, and I'm about ready to say, so that's it. And all of a sudden, I hear that voice again, will you deny me, will you deny my mother? Came back. 7:30 Mass, I'm about to end. Voice says, say a Hail Mary for my mother. I said, we're going to say a Hail Mary to end this. And I start, and I haven't said a Hail Mary since 4th grade. when a nun's pulling gum out of my mouth. Learning the Hail Mary. I get through that. Oh man, I got through it. Did the 10:30 Mass. Same thing. I'm ending. Say a Hail Mary for my mother. Say the same thing. Hail Mary. Then I get done and I say to Father Mark, I don't want to do the 11:30. I'm dying up here. He said, Kevin, turn around. I turn around, people are kneeling in front of Our Lady of the Broken. So I do 11:30. Say a Hail Mary for my mother. I would not hear that voice again until May of 2019. I want to show you tonight Broken Mary. I found her at a dumpster. We call her Our Lady of the Broken now. And this is her. Give her applause. It's her. I'm her roadie. Mary's roadie. That's her. And that's, she's together, her hands are missing, and she is something else. It's been 10 years. You're going to be able to come up tonight before you go home, say a prayer to her. I want everybody, whoever wants to take a flower and take a petal from the flower, I want you to do this tonight, I promise you. Whoever you know that is sick, I want you to take a petal from these flowers and give them to that sick person or pray for them, because those flowers are holy. Do you promise me? I don't want any petals on these flowers. This is Broken Mary. I would not hear that voice again until May of 2019. Here she is. I do the homilies, and I am so lucky. What did Jesus do? Will you deny me? Will you deny my mother? Say a Hail Mary for my mother. And at that moment, at that time, Jesus was saying, I'm going to leave you with my mother, and she's going to clean you up. I'm going to leave you with my mother, and she's going to clean you up. And she has cleaned me up. Mary is real. What's the first thing she's going to do? She's going to teach you her rosary, because the rosary is Mary's umbilical cord. It's the way she feeds us Jesus. It's not just beads. Suddenly I have this inkling to do the rosary during Lent at St. Anthony's with Father. And I said, Father, I'm going to do the rosary for Lent. Lent starts, I don't know how to say the rosary. I don't even know what a rosary is. I know what they are. I don't know how to use them. And I had to Google how to say the rosary. I get this little Irish priest, and he's saying the rosary. After about the third, fourth day, I think I'm saying to myself, I could do that. I could record that. I could record this and make millions. So that's what I'm going to do. And then I start, how did the rosary come about in St. Dominic in the 13th century, and Mary gave it to Dominic. I'm reading all these books, and Father Mark, I'm doing the rosary and whatnot. And I'm still doing the podcast and all that stuff, but I'm just trenched in the rosary. Wow. And then when I was saying those masses at 7:30 and 10:30 and 11:30, before I'd end, I'd say, listen, Mary doesn't belong to me. She belongs to you. If you know somebody that's sick, take her. Take the statue. And she's gone into hospice and intensive care in prisons. She's been with the most broken, and people started to take her. For the next 2-3 years, people are taking her. And the stories that are coming back, and Father Mark is being bombarded. He's like, Kevin, after a couple of years, he goes, you should really write a book. You should write this down, because something's happening. It's really having effects, some positive effects. So he goes, one of the nuns that we had out, she's a writing professor at Grand Valley. I'll put a lunch together, and she can tell you how to get this book going. So I did, and I'm a con. I go out there. She's little. I put her in her booster chair. And I'm thinking, you know, you could write this book about all these people. It's really great. She's like, I'm not going to write the book. I'm not going to, you know, what are you talking? She went back to her mother superior, Mother Colleen Ann, who loves me, by the way. And she goes, I am not working with Kevin Matthews. He used to work with Howard Stern. He is Satan. She said that. I'm not working with Kevin. I don't want to. He's evil. He's just, have you heard his show? And eventually, Sister Colleen Ann worked her, and okay, we're going to do this. I'll help you with your book. And she would ask a question. First question she asked me, and it's in the book. Tell me about your college radio station. Well, I decided, you know what, I'm going to just let it go. Here it is. It was wild. She wrote back, oh my. Then she's writing and stuff like that. And it was such really beautiful stuff. And all of a sudden, you know, the book's coming alive, and I'm starting to hit the road with Our Lady of the Broken. She's being taken and stuff like that. And now it's like 2015, and I'm recording the Rosary app that she's helping me with, and Father Mark is. It took me a year and a half to record the Rosary app because Sister, she said, your diction is horrible. It's hallowed. I'd do it again, 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 write it again, do 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 it again, pounding me, pounding me, pounding me. And that went on for 2 years. But now the book is starting to come together. And she sends it to the 3 biggest publishing companies in the world. They all want it. And she comes back. Guess who called me today? Matthew Kelly, this little nun. Matthew Kelly. And I go, who's Matthew Kelly? Is he with Aerosmith? Who's Matthew Kelly? What? No, he's the biggest publishing company. He wants to sign the book. I go, we'll go for it. We did. So we go with Matthew Kelly. The book is a hit. And I go back to this little pamphlet here. I've written the book, and I decide I'm going to take the $10,000 royalty check. I'm going to take, because the 100th anniversary is coming up for Fatima. I'm going to take this nun, I'm going to take Father Mark, and I'm going to go to Fatima. I want to go to Fatima. I don't know why. I want to go to Fatima. So we're booked to go to Fatima. And this is in 2016. The anniversary is coming up in 2017. I'm at my coffee table. I'm having coffee, and I look at this thing, and I go, you know, I'm going to write this address. And I wrote it. I said, I'm Kevin Matthews. I wrote a book. I've got these rosary apps. I got a statue. And I just hit send. I want to talk to you. Well, 2 weeks later, this woman calls back. And again, it's intervention. She's like, she arranges so Father Mark can do 4 masses at the Fatima site. I can say the rosary with the nun at the Fatima site, which I did. Think of that, I'm there for a week. And I'm reciting the rosary where Mary appeared to these 3 shepherd children, me of all people. And I look, and there's the Fatima statue looking over me. And I was proud because I had come such a long ways. And we spent the week there. Father Mark did masses. I'm in a location on August 1917. The children couldn't go to the apparition site. They were basically in jail. So I'm there by myself. There's a beautiful statue of Mary where she appeared. And we're about ready to leave, and I'm all by myself, and I look up at Mary, and I say, well, I got 2 rosary apps, and I wrote a book. Now what? I said it like that. Now what? And as soon as I hit now what, I think to myself, well, how derogatory is that? And something whizzed by my head, shattered on the ground. It was this giant pine cone. And I said to myself, had that would have hit me, it would have killed me. I mean, it's big. And her presence came over and said, I want nothing but you are to plant the seeds of my rosary. I had to write that down. You are to plant the seeds of my rosary. You are to plant the seeds of my rosary. Father Mark comes and I said, Father, I almost got hit by this pine cone. Do you see any other pine cones? He goes, no. He thinks I'm insane anyways. And by the way, we're in an olive garden, and I still have that pine cone. So I want to wrap up some things. How many of you want to go to heaven? Some of you not sure? I don't know. Well, we got Bears tickets, and they're going this year. I don't know. Not yet. Do you know, I since met in Fatima a nun when I went down there, and I've become really good friends. Her name is Sister Angela Coelho, and she is the postulator for Jacinta and Francisco. She's young. She's like 51. She's a medical doctor, but she is also a nun. She lives in Fatima. This book is unbelievable. She's working with the Pope right now. She's the postulator for Lucia. And she said to me this May, she said, Kevin, do you want to go to heaven? I said, oh, yeah. She goes, well, do you know you have to be a saint? And well, thanks, sister, for really, thanks. No, not a, like Mother Teresa or canonized saint. You have to sanctity. You have to be saint-like. You have to be saint-like like Mary. Be kind to people. Do that. Just start off a little bit. Be kind to people. When you wake up, be kind to people. And I have a theory that God hangs out at Meijer. Oh, laugh, but try it. I was at Meijer, and this clerk, the line was long, and you could tell she was tired. I'm like, I'm going to be a saint. And it's my turn, and I go, hi, Bella, her name tag. I go, how are you? Oh, I'm tired. It's a long day. I'm going to get out of here pretty quick. And I said, who's that? You got a button. Who's that kid on your smock? And oh, that's my son. He's I go, does he play football? Yeah, he's a linebacker for Michigan. We're having some discussion and talk, and she's really sweet. She's doing, and we got done, and I said, well, you have a really good night, and God bless you, and good luck to your son. And I'm thinking to myself, you don't have to be a priest to say to somebody, God bless you. God bless you. That made her. Why can't we be nice? Be nice. If you want to go to heaven, be nice. To me, my tips to get to heaven because of Fatima is the rosary. Mary wants you to recite her rosary. I'm up here repeating words from children from Fatima or Lourdes. I say the rosary every day because Mary says, say the rosary. Say my rosary. Every day to those children, say my rosary, say my rosary, say my rosary. I wear my rosary. This is a rosary that I just had to take off, and I've been wearing this. This is the rosary that I prayed with in Fatima. And I've worn this since 2016. Children gave it to me. I have the scapular is on this rosary because Mary said, wear the scapular. I'm doing exactly what Mary is telling me to do. This is her umbilical cord. It feeds you Jesus. This is Mary's hand. These aren't just beads. Maybe they are, but this is Mary. You want to get to Christ? Go through Mary. She is absolute your mother. She calls you my daughter, my son, my daughter, my son, my daughter, my daughter, my daughter, my son. If you recite the rosary, Hail, Holy Queen, Mother of Mercy, and we talk about this valley of tears. We are living in a valley of tears right now. God wins. God wins. I will die for Mary. I'm not afraid to die anymore. I'm between two worlds right now. And I go to prisons. I've been with inmates that are serving life that are dedicated to the rosary now. I don't know what they did. I can't ask, but they're not parking tickets. They're here for life. I go there all the time. Broken Mary, the book, is a big hit in prisons. I had one inmate say, I'm going to die here. But I said, you get to choose, though, where you want to go. Yes, you're going to die in Ionia, maximum. Yes, you are going to die. But you've gone to confession, you recite the rosary because the rosary, you love the rosary, you get to choose where you want to go. And that is so true, people. God does not send us to hell. We do. I'm so tired of people saying God is evil and God is bad and God is this. God is loving. God is beautiful. God never let go of my hand. When I was 6 years old, in a bed crying, he was there. I let his hand go when I was at that cemetery. When he gave me my movement back, I said, yeah, thanks, God. You have up until God forgive me, 3 words to say those words and enter heaven. God wins. And God is going to ask us when he sees us, what have you done for me and what have you done for my mother? Have you loved my mother? What have you done for me? And have you loved my mother? Love Mary. Love Mary. People, you will not be punished for loving Mary. Love her. Promote her. Go to church. This church is where God lives. That tabernacle is where God lives. That host, that Eucharist, that is the body of Christ. There is no question in my mind. That is the body of Christ. The Eucharist, the Rosary, confession. How many of you have gone to confession? Has it been a while? Who's been? I hate confession. I hated it for the last year and a half, but now I take Mary to confession with me. Take Mary to confession. She sees you. The confessional started at the crucifix. The Catholic Church started at the crucifix, at the crucifixion. Go into a confessional and ask the priest, are you going to yell at me? Are you going to shame me? Are you going to mock me? And if he says, well, I might got some questions for you, get up and leave. Go to another church. He's a shepherd. You're a lamb. I love my priest that I go to because I used to think about getting on a plane and I'll go to Siberia and give confession. Now I go all the time. And I was down in confession. I'm saying my sins and I'm beating myself up. I'm bringing sins that I've been forgiven for, and I beat myself up. And I'm beating myself up, and I sin this, and I sin this, and I cry, and I cry. Finally, the priest says, Kevin, what have you done for God today? That stopped me in my tracks. And I said, well, I talked to a person today who needs a liver transplant, a woman who's going through breast cancer, and I'm talking to a kid, he's a teenager, he's got muscular dystrophy. Stop beating yourself up. God has a plan for you, and so does Satan. Satan hates me. Oh, he hates me. Wait till you read what's in the next book. I'll leave you with this. I'll leave you with 2 things. Getting Sister Angela here, and I wanted to talk to these students at Aquinas College. I sent a note to these students because I want the youth, I want young people to go to the Rosary, go to Christ, and I love the young people that are warriors, that are disciples. And so I wrote a letter to the president of Aquinas. I want to bring Broken Mary. I want to share the Rosary, the Rosary, the Rosary. And then I also wrote to Sister Angela, I want you to come back to Chicago. I hit send. I don't hear anything for like a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I said to Father Mark, nothing out of Aquinas, nothing out. And I'm thinking about writing another letter. And I'm writing, getting ready, and then suddenly I hear this creepy voice that said, she's done with you. You sinned too much. Devastated me. Creep. She's done with you. You sinned too much. Went to bed, and I got up, and I didn't even put my feet down. I put my foot down on the floor, and I said to Mary, are you done with me? Do I sin too much? And as soon as I said that, the phone rang. And it was Aquinas College saying, we just got back from break. We'd love to have you on campus with the statue. Hang up the phone. Phone rings. Kevin, it's a woman down in Florida. Did you read your email? Sister Angela's coming up to see you. Mary is with you. I wrote something down once because somebody said, is that a rosary that you're wearing? And I said, yeah, and I tucked it. And then I heard this voice, gentle voice, say, never be, see, I have to write it down. Never be ashamed of your presence of me. And I love her. I love Mary. Today I gave for the second book, this Becky, this great woman, she's going to help produce a book, nearly 600 notes that I've taken. 600 notes that I've taken. I can't write, ready to write the next book. Because we're all going to face God in Christ. He said, what have you done for me? And have you loved my mother? And I also think he's going to say, oh, and by the way, that was me at Meyer. Have a beautiful night. Thank you so much. And God bless you. You can come up and be with Our Lady of the Broken, and I'll be back with signing and autographing the book. And it's been a pleasure. I hope, does anybody have questions or you want to go or whatever? I just know so much. And here's Eric, who's producing this documentary. We've got a lot going on. But thank you so again for your time, and I'll be back here. Thank you. Thank you, buddy.
That was awesome.
God bless you, man.
God bless you.
Thanks.
I'm going to get a flower.
Okay,
My
please.
best friend's dying.
Oh, you guys, make sure you get petals from the flower when you come up, and then we'll have a line here, and it'll be real quick to get a book. And God bless you all. Thank you.